Grab your motorcycles, we've got a new episode of Reacher, which means we're in for one heel of a good time. That's right, episode 4 offers new insight into what exactly AM is selling, how it could lead to a catastrophic terrorist attack, and more clues that hint at one of the team members being a bad guy. Keep in mind, I haven't read the book, so there will be no book spoilers in this review, so let's not waste any time and get right into it. Last episode saw Reacher and the gang quietly break into New Age technologies.
The car belonged to one of their employees. I was returning it.
At a nearby diner, the team goes over all the new information they uncovered, including that former Special Investigations Unit member Tony Swan was working for New Age as Assistant Director of Security, so he was just below Shane Langston, the man hell-bent on killing Reacher and his team. Now, Reacher is adamant that Swan isn't in on this whole conspiracy, rather that he's a victim, something Neely isn't too sure of.
You want Swan to be innocent because you hired him into the 110.
We find out that the guy Reacher threw a barbecue at was also on this security team, so Reacher and the gang intend to hunt down all these New Age workers in the hopes of getting answers. Meanwhile, Russo, the most over-the-top New Yorker I've ever seen, is chewed out for Reacher's escapades at New Age. His lieutenant wants to know what Reacher found out. Could this be because he's secretly working with New Age, or is he merely doing his duty as a cop? Where things start to get interesting are these emails between Swan and New Age Director of Operations Marlo Burns, the woman who gave Dixon and Neely the address of the home where the team would later be ambushed. Swan references loving a Jimi Hendrix album, specifically song number 6 titled Little Wing. This is odd since the team knows Swan hates Hendrix.
No Skinner, no Zeppelin, no Hendrix, no Who. I like my music lighter.
Little Wing was the code word for a 9-figure federal defense contract between New Age and the US government, but in order for this deal to go through, its funding would need to be approved by Congress. Meanwhile, we have this flashback of the Special Investigations Unit celebrating a victory in their missing fuel case. In the first 3 episodes, Dixon and Reacher found out that several military aircraft had gone through more than their relegated amount of fuel, meaning something on these aircrafts was causing them to burn more. This turned out to be unaccounted for heroin military officers were smuggling out of Afghanistan. And it looks like they've made their first big bust. 48 big bricks of heroin. Now, the writers are really trying to paint Swan as a bad guy here. Not only does Swan talk about how it's unfair these criminals make more than all their pensions combined with one of these shipments, but an entire brick of heroin is conveniently found unaccounted for in the back of his truck. Was it an honest mistake, or was he purposely hiding it? In present-day Denver, our international arms dealer AM has had to get creative in acquiring new identities after Reacher and the gang found his list of aliases. He's found this doctor who looks a lot like him, so he's gotta die so that AM can steal his identity. Reacher continues to look into Little Wing and the senator who pushed for its funding, but instead of going for the senator himself, they go for an easier target, the person who drafted the bill. This is the legislative director, Daniel Boyd. This guy has a history of DUIs and romps with sex workers, making him a good target for blackmail, and it just so happens he'll be in town for a special fundraising event at the Symphony. But if they're going to blackmail this guy, they're going to need some drugs, so Reacher takes out the same drug dealer he did a few episodes ago. You'd think this guy would learn by now. Meanwhile, Neely and Dixon head to Marlo Burns' house in search of answers. The place looks chaotic, as if someone was in a hurry to get the hell out of there. The cabinets and closets are open, clothes strewn about, and Marlo has left behind a bag full of money. Why would someone leave this behind? AM continues his obsession with comic books and young children as he uses his new identity to purchase a rental car.
Do you know why I love comic books so much?
I love the beginning of this dress shopping scene because O'Donnell is just creepily checking out dresses. And while Reacher thinks they all look like assholes on top of a wedding cake, he still has the hots for Dixon. And Dixon will have to look her best if she's going to woo her target. At the Symphony, it doesn't take long for Dixon to lure Daniel out to the back of her car for a little booger sugar, allowing him to get arrested by none other than Oscar Finley. You may remember remember Oscar as Margrave's chief detective in season 1. In fact, it's pretty funny that when Oscar introduces himself to Reacher and O'Donnell, Reacher refers to himself as Detective Margrave, the location most of season 1 is set. O'Donnell is referred to as Blake, a nod to Blind Blake, the blues musician who allegedly died in Margrave. But before we get there, we have to discuss the new development on these numbers found on Orozco's secret USB. Last episode, Dixon theorized that the numbers are a 6-day work week over the course of 7 months. Reacher builds on this, theorizing these numbers are also a tally, and if you add these numbers all up, there are only 1,547 total events accounted for out of 2,197, leaving 650 unaccounted. Remember that 650 is the amount Orozco kept saying over and over again.
650 at 100K each.
In episode 2, the man dealing with AM says,
All 650 will be in the truck.
so it looks like AM has whatever these items are, and it isn't until Daniel's interrogated that we find out just what we're dealing with. Now I gotta bring this up because I thought it was a bit weird. Throughout the first 4 episodes, O'Donnell keeps getting messages from his family, including one in this episode that goes straight to his burner phone, which he brushes off, stating that he must have accidentally given his kids that number. This is extremely fishy, and it makes me think he's one of the bad guys. He's probably not talking to his family at all. Remember that he was found in Reacher and Neely's trashed hotel room, and several times throughout this episode tried to paint Tony Swan as a traitor. But for those of you who haven't read the book, let me know what you think in the comments. Reacher and O'Donnell interrogate Daniel in the hopes of finding out everything they can about Little Wing, and it doesn't take long for Daniel to squeal. Little Wing was the codename for an anti-missile software to protect commercial aircrafts from attack, but Boyd was approached by New Age, who stated this technology could be tweaked to create powerful portable surface-to-air weaponry that could hit its target every time.
You fire, you hit your target. Period.
This new tech could prove very useful for the US military and very lucrative for New Age. The only problem, they need approved funding. So Daniel and his senator buried the proposal in a 1,000-page long bill where no one would read it, and voila, it got approved. It's implied that both he and the senator got paid under the table for this because that's just how things work in Washington. Daniel isn't too concerned about this technology because it's in the hands of us Americans, but AM and New Age may have other plans. Outside Denver, AM and this guy have an agreement that these weapons are not to be used on US soil, to which AM responds he'd never harm anyone, which we know is a lie since he just goes around the country killing people. But Daniel's big revelation is that New Age has 2 facilities, not 1. The facility Reacher broke into at the end of episode 3 only handled the software, while the facility in Denver has the actual hardware. For these weapons to work, the software and hardware need to be combined. This is why Shane Langston has been working with AM. Shane has the software, AM has the hardware, but it still leaves the question, why did Shane need to hire AM if his company, New Age, already owned both parts? We don't know the answer to that just yet, but maybe it was to make it look like their parts were stolen. Or maybe Shane has gone rogue and is doing his own thing. With a bigger picture starting to form, it looks like Neely and Dixon will go off to Denver to investigate this second facility, while Reacher and O'Donnell are off to DC to consult with Homeland Security. Reacher's brother, the one who died in season 1, used to work for Homeland Security, and some of his contacts may be of help. But it wouldn't be an episode of Reacher without some good old-fashioned ass-kicking. Shane has hired the most delightful motorcycle gang to put an end to Reacher, but as we all know,
do not mess with the special investigators!
They make quick work of these fools, and Reacher wastes no time getting in touch with their boss, telling him exactly what he wants.
I want to throw you out of a helicopter.
I can't wait for more episodes of Reacher and to see where the story takes us. I hope you'll consider liking and subscribing. I plan on covering the whole season. Thanks for watching, and until next time, remember,
He was stopped by barbecue. He died from trans fats.